Good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be in this beautiful planet of ours. This is Marc Lainhart, the Intuitive Prospector, back for a Metaphysical Mocha Mondays here on the Intuitive Prospector channel. Thank you so much for tuning into to this morning's message. I am your host, Marc Lainhart, the Intuitive Prospector. And if you guys don't mind, just sharing out the live feed to a page, or maybe inviting a person in that you feel would get a benefit from participating in today's inspirational show. This morning we're going to be talking about status quo, the boring of status quo, and daring to be different. So again, grab your coffee, grab your tea. Thanks so much for tuning in this morning. If you guys can hear me okay, let's do a quick sound check, make sure that the quality is okay. I do have a small fan running because it's a little bit hot right now here in Seattle, Washington, so hopefully that fan is not interacting too bad with the sound quality. If it is, could you guys just let me know? So just going to say good morning to some of my followers of the page, Jennifer, Tara Lee, top fan, Adriana, top fan, Courtney Ann, Melanie, good morning, Jeanette, good morning to all of you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. And again, if you guys want to get your top fan badge, if you want to subscribe to the page, interact with the page, that's how you actually get a top fan badge on the Intuitive Prospector page. So this morning during meditations, I came up with how the status quo is boring, and I just noticed that I put on my page, oh, that's kind of funny, that the status is Q, boring. So I'm gonna have to change that real quick. So grab your coffee, grab your tea, let's get into the magic of the moment. You just take a deep breath with me. Just tune into today's message, today's energy. I'm just updating, I got it so fast and putting it out there. But today's message should be the status quo, not Q. Geez, I can't, it must be Monday morning. Status quo is boring, dare to be different. And I'm going to give you a book today, a book recommendation that I've been reading that kind of opened up my mindset to being different, not necessarily following the status quo. If you want to learn more about the work that I'm doing here in Seattle, Washington, the Pacific Northwest, up in Canada, visit marclainhart.com, internet search The Intuitive Prospector, and let's do a little spiritual prospecting for your own spiritual gold. So again, today's message, the status quo is boring, dare to be different. And I have to say, one of the things, my words are kind of a little bit jumbled this morning, so I pay attention to that to see what's going on. Now, today is the 17th, which means there's a full moon tonight. So if you hear a lot of fire engines, if you hear a lot of police cars, if you go to the ER and the ER's packed, it's because there's a full moon cycle and people get really impacted by the external stimuli. And I always say pay attention to your external stimuli. Just for the fact that it has an impact on us, metaphysically speaking, because we are water and the moon moves the oceans, the gravitational pull of the moon, so it is enough to have a pull on us. But this morning, wanted to just kind of go over some things to think about. And the first quote that really got me thinking about this is I actually saw a quote from George Carlin. So if you know George Carlin, he's a famous actor, comedian who is now in the spirit world. And he talked about that the status quo sucks. And I couldn't agree more. And so when I was in my meditations this morning, I was actually just supposed to talk about the status quo and how the status quo can be deathly boring. Most young people, myself included, we know nothing of the world as it is. We come into it, we come into what I call human organization, social conditioning, and, following authority, which, I'm definitely saying that. I'm not saying not follow the authority and obey the laws. But a lot of people, just follow along with the status quo and don't really step outside of their social conditioning, or they don't really find their authentic self. And it's a waste. It's a crime, if you ask me, and it's boring. And one of the quotes I'm going to first start off with is from Johann Wolfgang von Goethe. And if you know Van Gogh, he's a famous painter. And he talked about live dangerously and you live right. And the life, if you surrender to the mind of your passions, I guess is what I'm trying to say, life improves. So if you've been thinking about doing that project, if you've been thinking about doing something that makes you fearful, then step into your authentic self and step in and taking that leap of faith. No different than how I'm talking to you today on Facebook Live. Going to be doing readings here at 8:30 on the Prospecting Q&A after show. And really kind of, at first it was very uncomfortable. I worried about, we're the only species that creates worry. We put worry into our minds. And, what people would say, Marc's doing spiritual work, Marc's a psychic, Marc's a spiritual medium, Marc's an intuitive, Marc's an inspire. What would people say? And when you live in the fear of what other people are thinking, then you are not living your authentic self. So this morning's message is all about status quo. There's nothing wrong with status quo if that's where you want to be. But at the same time, there can be a danger in the status quo and just not taking risks and stepping outside of your comfort zone to do the things that you want to do, to explore. That's why I came up with the tagline, dare to dream, dare to explore, dare to live. So again, welcome to Metaphysical Mocha Mondays. Grab your coffee, grab your tea. If you're new to the page, please subscribe, like, share out. Let us know where you're from in the world, because I know that we have a international audience, and I love to see where people are tuning in from. If you want to learn more about what I'm doing here in Seattle, Washington, you can visit marclainhart.com. You can internet search The Intuitive Prospector. I'm going to go ahead and put my YouTube channel, because my YouTube channel is actually growing. It's expanding. It's kind of cool. Where there's over, 262 videos now of what I call spiritual awesomeness. And it's anywhere from spiritual hikes, spiritual dives, 4 seasons of Inspired Living Radio with amazing podcasts and amazing people. Last week we just had Danielle McKinnon. If you know Danielle McKinnon, she's a well-known animal communicator. It was a lot of fun. And so if you would like to subscribe to my playlist, let me just grab that link for you here real quick, and I'll put it in the page so you can participate in that. If you subscribe or share out the page, you're entered into a free 30-minute reading or drawing for a free 30-minute reading at the end of the month that I pick, or the Spirit picks at the end of the month. I look at who shares and who subscribed and who's commented, and you're entered into a drawing. So I have contacted the person for last month, which was May. So you have a few more weeks of June. So make sure to get into that drawing. So good morning, Jennifer. Good morning, Colleen. How are you guys? Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for being a part of the community, spiritual prospecting for your own spiritual goal. So you never been to the show? It's 30 minutes on Monday, starting at 8 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. It's inspirational messages for the week ahead. And today's message is the status quo is boring. Dare to be different. Dare to be unique. Dare to step into your authentic self, as I like to say. A couple of quotes that will maybe help you on your journey today to kind of help with that. Whether it's self-sabotage of your mind, your thoughts. The one person you talk to the most is yourself. Maybe you have a little bit of fear-based. For me, fear is false evidence appearing real. Or maybe you're worried about failure. For me, failure is first attempt in learning. So a lot of these things that we have titles for and labels for, people stay away from. I actually embrace them. And in fact, if you're in my spiritual development group, which I have weekly, I always tell them the first thing of my teaching is get comfortable with being uncomfortable. Because when you move into that uncomfortable zone, you find a lot of growth and transformation takes place. One of my favorite inspirers is not only Charlie Chaplin, who would say, we think too much and we feel too little. The mind is always going to be going, and the body is a slave to the mind. So whatever your mindset is, the body's always going to follow that. So Bruce Lee talked about another person I thought was very intelligent, inspirational, short-lived. I felt like he left way too soon. He talked about the meaning of life is that it is to be lived. It is not to be traded and conceptualized and squeezed into a pattern of systems. And that's what Bruce Lee taught on his teachings. And if you look at today's status quo is about a pattern of systems, falling into the same pattern, doing the same thing. And you know the definition of insanity, right? Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different outcome. So today I'm going to challenge you for the inspirational message ahead is to really move forth and daring to dream, daring to explore, daring to live, and daring to be different by stepping outside whatever that status quo is for you. Again, the meaning of life is that it's to be lived, and it's not to be traded or conceptualized, I can't say that word this morning, full moon cycle, and squeezed into a pattern of systems. I prefer not to be in a pattern of systems. I try to pay attention to my habits. Mark Twain told us that thousands of geniuses live and die undiscovered, either by themselves or by others. So let me ask you, are you a genius? Have you been discovered? Have you written that book you've been thinking about? Are you a songwriter? Have you written that song that may someday be picked up by somebody famous that sings your message? That poem, are you a director inspiring to want to direct that next film, but maybe don't know where the money comes from, don't know where that networking comes from? If you're an athlete looking to get to that next level of competition, it's really about just stepping into your authentic self and visualizing, manifesting. I always say, believe it, see it, achieve it. And one of the things I learned in my sports medicine when I was taking my graduate studies is we focused in on visualization, manifestation, and meditation. Have you sat in silence? Have you done something that allows you to listen to your thoughts? I always say ABC, always be connecting. Awareness, breathing, connecting, all of these spiritual ABCs, daily ABCs. I always say keep your focus, get motivated, get shit done, live inspired, have a vision, be fearless. These are all things that you can do. A lot of things of what I do is somebody asked me the other day, what do you do for a living? Because that's what we do as humans. We usually, when we meet somebody new, they say, what do you do for a living? And mine, I'm kind of a modern day Da Vinci because I do a lot of stuff. I teach CPR. I have a CPR first aid company. I'm a teacher here at Harborview Medical Center teaching CPR and first aid. I work part-time for the federal government doing healthcare inspections. But what I like to say is when people say, what do you do for a living? I like to say, I'm raising the vibration of humanity. As a humanitarian, as a spiritualist, as somebody that wants to see people come together, not be divided. That's what I tell people I do. I'm raising the vibration of humanity. And some people go, oh, well, that's quite interesting. Other people go, well, what do you mean? So, it's just kind of funny how people respond. But that's me stepping into my authentic self. That's me stepping into who I am and sharing with the world who I am. You know, Albert Einstein talked about the tragedy of life is what dies in the hearts and souls of people while they are alive. And I got into spiritualism because I had so much trauma and tragedy in my path, my own near-death experience, my own out-of-body experience, and that moved me into the arena of psychic, of medium, of inspirational speaking, of being a spiritual healer, being a metaphysical teacher, of, you know, just really listening to my own calling. And so, you know, what are you doing? What is as Anais Nin teaches us, life shrinks or expands according to one's courage. What is your life? And only you can answer that. What is your life expanding, or is your life shrinking based on your own thoughts? Because we do create a lot of our own reality. And so I always remember that, you know, from Joseph Campbell, the cave fear usually holds the treasure receipt. So today's inspirational message is to inspire you for the week ahead. Because Mondays are not always a lot of fun, right? Mondays, you know, we're going back to the grind. We're going back to that system or pattern that I was just talking about, that we find ourselves living in, well, not that I was saying, but what Bruce Lee was talking about, squeezed into a pattern of systems. And on Mondays, a lot of us return to those systems. And obedience can be very, very boring. Status quo can be very, very boring. So what are you doing and to be different is what I'm going to inspire you today. To live is the rarest thing in the world. Most people exist. That is all. Oscar Wilde teaches us that. Samuel Johnson talked about all theories against the freedom of the will, all experience for it. You know, one of the books that really helped kind of open my mindset, it's a book that came out in 2016. So I'm going to start giving you guys book recommendations as well for the show to help you with your inspiration. I also give you crystals, and I also give you a numerology number for the week. But this week I want to give you the book called The Breaking Dawn. Now, it's not to be confused for you Twilight fans out there. I know there was a Twilight movie called Breaking Dawn. This is called The Breaking Dawn. It's by Paul Rosenberg. It was written in 2016. And it really starts with the attack on the investment markets that brings down the economy systems, and it divides the world into two different parts, really. The one part's dominated by mass surveillance and massive data systems, clean cities, and empty minds, and where everything is assured and everything is ordered. And then the other part in the book is abandoned, without services, without any kind of communications, you know, almost like going 50 years behind the times, but where human minds are left to find their own bearing. So it's just a very interesting book. Again, it's called The Breaking Dawn by Paul Rosenberg. It's a book I read, it's been a while. It's 3 years ago now, so I guess 2016 when it came out. It's just somebody I follow and somebody I'd love to have on Inspired Living Radio to talk more about this. But it's just an interesting look at what happens when you fall into systems, you kind of lose your freedom of mind and your freedom of thought. And then the other part where people don't have all the commodities and the communications, but actually have the ability to think for themselves and really move into their own minds. You know, he talks about, as hard as the journey is into true freedom and liberty, he never takes the focus off the breaking dawn. So it's kind of like looking to the dawn of the dawn's always going to come, and what's that look like. And you know, the journey, you know, it meant a lot to me, because it was really about the journey of true freedom and liberty, because I found myself trying to keep up with the Joneses. I found myself trying to fit the status quo, and I found myself moving into a system of what I was talking about with what Bruce Lee said is a pattern of systems every Monday, going back to the grind. So thanks for tuning in. Thanks for hanging out with me this morning. I've got a cup of coffee here this morning, because with Metaphysical Mocha Mondays is not Mocha Mondays without coffee or tea, or wherever you're at in the world. Maybe it's getting close to evening and you're sitting down with a cup of tea, or even if it's early morning, because it's a few hours behind in Hawaii, maybe you're just waking up with a protein shake. So make sure to subscribe, make sure to tune in, make sure to get on my YouTube playlist. You guys can also catch me now through if you have Alexa or if you have an Echo Pod. Just asked to open up Ariel's Positive Living. I just did my voice recordings 2 weeks ago, so you should actually start to hear my voice versus Alexa's voice come on now, where I give you daily inspirational tips for the week ahead. And one of the pictures I posted on my page this morning was Monday motivation. Drink your coffee. Stay focused and positive. Don't freak out. Remember, stabbing people is wrong. Are you wearing pants? You are a magnificent sunflower, or potato or whatever you like. So that was kind of something I put on today, is just to kind of help with the laughter and the humor. So thanks for tuning in. Thanks for being a part of today's message. Again, the book recommendation is The Breaking Dawn by Paul Rosenberg. And just sharing today's message about what the status quo can be for you, how boring it can be. And I'm daring you to be a little bit different in your journey, because I found by daring to dream, daring to explore, daring to live, that you really can start to step into your authentic self and step outside your own fear, your own self-sabotage, and your limitations that you put on yourself. To love is to live. To live is to open your life to expansion, to deep satisfaction, and to love that. It's just amazing that, when you turn that switch off and you really move past fear and failure, a lot of amazing things can happen for you guys. So again, if you've been thinking about writing that next song, you've been thinking about directing that next movie, writing that next book, taking that next trip, attending a workshop, mending fences with somebody that maybe you've had a falling out with, it's really about truly living. And that's what today's message is about. Carl Jung talked about the secret is that only that which can destroy itself is truly alive. So think about that for a second. Psychology and alchemy. If you study psychology like I do, or alchemy, which is the transformation of gold, the changing elements of gold. Think about yourself as that brick of gold, as your own inner alchemy, if you will, because every 5 to 7 years, the cells within our body, that's how we age, that's how we get older, breaks down, and your whole body is replaced with new cells. So you are literally, if you haven't thought about this, aging is also transformation based on your cellular level. Your DNA and cells are always changing, always expanding, always growing, and always dying. The circle of life. New cells come in, old cells die. So, Carl Jung, I've always heard it both ways. The secret is that only that which can destroy itself is truly alive. So I'll just kind of let you sit for that with a second, because that's some pretty deep stuff right there. There's another one by Simon Wall that wrote The Great Beast, and he talked about conscious is deceived by the social. And here in social media, even I put my show on social media, and then this will premiere over on YouTube, is to have inspirational messages to bring people together. Because even in watching social media, social interactions, people are very divided based on social media, whether it's following a Twitter feed or Instagram or here on Facebook Live, because it's so easy to get on the keyboard and just express yourself. But I've also found that social media is not a real world, that people can get caught up in this this world of meanness and bulliness, and then people base their life off that. Some of these, especially the younger generations, they're very caught up in the social media, but people's opinions are like eyebrows and elbows, and almost everybody has one. So that's why I really focused in on having this platform, inviting you in every week to share a message, and then at 8:30 here in a few minutes, we're going to be doing the Prospecting Q&A after show, where I'll do readings, spiritual conversations, have a spiritual chat, philosophy, even a little bit of conscious debate, but doing it in a way that's kind, caring, and compassionate, because I just see all around me in this world today that are people that just don't care. For some of us, we have to be that light in the dark. We have to be that lighthouse in the storm, to keep guiding people to always have hope and find happiness. And like I said, there's another one that Albert Einstein talked about. Let me just read that for you just real quick. And he talked about, this is from Mien Welt Bild, the book or the journal that he wrote from Albert Einstein. The most beautiful emotion we can experience is the mysterious. It is the fundamental emotion that stands in the cradle of all true art and science. He to whom this emotion is a stranger, who can no longer wander and stand wrapped in awe, is as good as dead, a snuffed out candle. And that's what Albert Einstein talked about. He talked about the experience in the mysterious. And I always think of Nikola Tesla. One of my favorite quotes from Nikola Tesla is, if you want to unlock the secrets of what this universe is, this three-dimensional, physical dimensional reality is, think in terms of energy, think in terms of frequency, think in terms of vibration. And when you go down that path in the metaphysical pathways, it opens you up to looking at your life and what is beyond your life, energy, how your heart works. Things start to change for you. The path starts to really unfold. So again, this morning we're talking about how the status quo can be very boring, And I'm daring you to be different this week and do something where you step outside of your comfort zone, step outside of your mindset, your self-sabotage, your mind limitations, and do something that really makes you feel alive. Again, the book that I'm recommending is The Breaking Dawn. I found it to be one of the most thought-provoking books that I have read in a long time, and it's just full of many ideas. It's hard to read because it's based on it challenges people's conceptions. Many parts of the book were hard to read because it would choke me up based on just fitting into things and trying to always please others. And there is that quote that talks about try to please the world, you end up satisfying nobody. And we give, and that's fine, but do it in a way that allows you to step into your authentic self. And sometimes you learn this through age and growth and wisdom, because when we're born into a world and a society that we just kind of fall into. And if you step outside that norm, and I always think of all the people go in one direction, the one person go in the opposite direction. Or there was even a famous picture back from World War II where there was a black and white still of everybody doing the Heil Hitler or they were doing the Nazi sign to Hitler, but there was one guy in the crowd that refused to put his hand up, and he was that one that lived dangerously at that time, if you think about it. But he lived for who he was. He lived for what is right. So again, get on my YouTube playlist, guys. We're going to get ready for the Prospecting Q&A after show. I do want to give you your number for the week. Your crystal is actually what I'm wearing right now. It's black smoky onyx. It's a grounding, so this is my mala beads, and this is also cornelian, which is an inspirational spiritual crystal stone. So on my mala beads, that's your actual crystal for this week, is black smoky onyx, which is a grounding stone, and cornelian. This is from Italy. These are Italian beads, and that's spiritual perception and spiritual evolution with your mindset. The number for this week is all about spiritual careers. If you've been thinking about doing a spiritual career, number 7 is truth, 8 is business, and together that's 78, that's 15, so that adds up to a 6, which is about self-love. So pay attention to any kind of spiritual career you've been thinking about doing. You don't have to do it full-time. You can do it part-time like I do. I don't do this job full-time, and I don't know if I would do this job full-time, to be honest with you. So your totem animal spirit for the week, I'm just going to actually, at random, pick one and see what the bird is going to be. The macaw. So let me just show that to you, the macaw. So if you have a parrot, or you've seen a parrot, or you're going to see a bird, it's just telling you if the macaw or the parrot shows up, you're benefiting from getting out in the sunlight at least a few minutes each day. So you're at the beginning stages of a heightened spiritual perception. That is the macaw. That's your totem animal spirit for the week. And again, spiritual careers on the numerology pathway for your numerology for the week. And again, the cornelian and the black smoky onyx are your crystals for the week. Again, check out the book, The Breaking Dawn by Paul Rosenberg. I am going to start bringing books that I've read, books that have been beneficial each week to try to help you on your journey, to set an inspirational message and vibration and tone and energy and frequency for the week ahead. I want to thank you so much for hanging out with me. Again, share the page, get a top fan badge. If you want to learn more about the work I'm doing, just go to marclainhart.com. Internet, search the Intuitive Prospector. You can find me every Wisdom Wednesday over on my internet show called Inspired Living Radio, where we go live every Wisdom Wednesday at 12 p.m. Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern. And then that's podcasted through iTunes, YouTube, SoundCloud, Podbean, marclainhart.com. And you can also catch me now through Alexa and the Echo Pods. Just asked to open up Ariel's Positive Living. I would love to do a little spiritual prospecting for your own spiritual gold. And if you're interested in learning more about spiritual development on a weekly basis, just send me a friend request on Facebook, or send me a private message inquiring about SDG, which is the Spiritual Development Group. It's our online development group every Wednesday at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. At people all over the United States and Canada, and we have a lot of fun every week. So if you're interested in learning and prospecting for your own spiritual gold, send me a private message. So I just want to thank you for hanging out today, and we're going to be back here in about 1 minute as I get myself ready to answer your questions, to have spiritual chats, free readings. We may have a little bit of mediumship. We may have psychic. We may just have a question about metaphysics or today's topics. But just to recap, the status quo is boring. Dare to be different, or as my tagline that I first came up when I came into my spiritual practice was, dare to dream, dare to explore, dare to live. And I just want to say have a great week, and until our next soul adventure together. Be kind, be caring, be compassionate. I'll see you next Monday for Metaphysical Mocha Mondays here on the Intuitive Prospector page at 8 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So have a great rest of your week, everybody. Namaste.